Hello, this is Melissa Corey, and I'm very excited to be presenting at the Canva Librarians and Teachers Winter Virtual Showcase. My topic for this presentation today is called Riddle Me This. It is about designing library scavenger hunts, which is something that I've done in my library for quite a few years. They've taken a few different forms over the past couple of years, and I want to share some tips and tricks as well as some templates if you would like to design your own library scavenger hunts. If you'd like to follow along with my slides or refer to them later, I have lots of different links in this presentation. You can scan that QR code or go to bit.ly/Canva scavenger, and you'll have access to these slides as well. And I want to say thank you to Christina for hosting this virtual showcase so we can all share all of our favorite things in Canva. First up, I just want to introduce myself officially. My name is Melissa Corey. I'm a middle school library media specialist in St. Joseph, Missouri, and I love creating all kinds of different things in Canva to use in my library, and I'm always happy to share my creations. I will have a link to my Linktree later on in this presentation, and all of my different Canva templates are linked there for different things, including my scavenger hunts, as well as some other promotional items that I create for my library. I've been in the field for 15 years, and I don't think any 2 days or any 2 scavenger hunts are ever quite the same. So I do want to go over a few different things about scavenger hunts, why you might want to consider using those. Again, I am in a school library, but I actually got the idea to do a scavenger hunt from a couple of different places. So my own children, when they were a little bit younger than they are now, we have a nature center here in our town. It's called the Remington Nature Center. And every month they would have a different scavenger hunt available where you had to search for different items that were in the exhibits at the nature center. And you wrote down the different locations. And if you got all 10 of the locations correct, you got, a free sticker and a pencil or another little prize. And I always try and look at the things that are available to my children or to children, in our community or in the world in general, and try and bring those back to my library just in case my students haven't had the ability to visit those places. So kind of thinking about looking for different items in the library, obviously one of those components is building library skills. So you can hide different items according to call number, according to book title, in different locations around your library. But one of the ways I always try and incorporate library skills into my scavenger hunts is a lot of my scavenger hunts are much easier if students use our online catalog. Another piece of that is to allow students to independently explore the library. I'm very lucky in that my library is flexibly scheduled. Being at a middle school, I do collaborate with teachers. I do have classes and things like that. But the majority of my day, students can visit with a pass and do different independent activities. So we have maker activities, we have board games. But one of the things they like to do on a regular basis is complete the monthly scavenger hunt. One other piece is looking at wayfinding, which is, again, trying to create independent library users, trying to find their own way through the library. One thing about my library is we do, a big orientation at the beginning of the year, first couple of weeks of school. I actually don't use the scavenger hunt for my library orientation, but I know a lot of people that do. So those are out there. But one of the pieces is, after that orientation, sometimes students forget where different books are located. Where is the graphic novel section? Where is historical fiction? And so by putting those items throughout the library, they're familiarizing themselves with the library all over again every time they do the scavenger hunt. Another piece is, again, provide an incentive for visiting the library. If they have a choice, to visit the library, I want to have different activities for them to do. I do incentivize my scavenger hunts. Not everybody wins a prize. We draw 10 names every month out of all of our finishers, all of our students that finish, to get, candy bars or other prizes like that. But it is just, again, a way to make the library fun and to make it a place where they feel welcome And again, to create some excitement about visiting the library, because middle schoolers sometimes are a tough crowd to reach. So I do want to go over different types of library scavenger hunts, different ways that you can approach using these or creating these. And it kind of comes down to where you want to hide the different items or objects that you're using. Again, you can use physical objects, like you can, the Nature Center always had, different things that you would use as like decorations. So maybe flowers, maybe butterflies. But I will show you what I use, which is very low cost and very easy to replicate. So one of those pieces is looking at what you want students to look for. So are they going to be finding specific book titles? Are they going to search the catalog and they're going to find or locate a book, and the item is on or near that book? So you could tape that item to the book cover, and they have to find that specific book and locate that particular item. So this month we're doing cardinals for the scavenger hunt, since it's winter here in Missouri. And I'll kind of talk about the numbers and the letters, because I do like a alphanumeric riddle basically. But I, in the past, would do book only, title only scavenger hunts. I'll talk about kind of a caveat with those. So I give a lot of hints and to where different items can be. And I do like to hide at least a few of my items every month on or around different books. So not just, on the shelves. So for instance, we have a cardinal on a bird feeder handbook book in my library right now. And again, if that book needed to check out, I can move that particular cardinal number 23, to a different book, and I'll just change my location. I'll show you how I record those. But it allows me to tell students, okay, you need to figure out where the bird books are located, and they would have to look up in the catalog. It's somewhere in the 590s and go locate it. Same thing, looking at just sort of a play on words with like the St. Louis Cardinals and the Gateway Arch. So, giving students a clue like, hey, it's on a book about Missouri, and they would have to go to the catalog and see where our state books are located. So again, I don't have, I've kind of created scavenger hunts so I don't have to worry about students checking out individual books. I can move the clues around. If you do have a listing of titles and you're hiding those items on or near those titles, I would consider going to like author instead. So, hey, this particular item is hiding with the Kwame Alexander books, or maybe even a genre. So they're still wayfinding, but you don't have to worry about replacing a book or changing your scavenger hunt totally around if that book needs to check out. But it does help complete the scavenger hunt if you go and use the catalog, which is a big skill that students need to have. Another piece is to find different locations through the library. So one of the things that I mentioned is that a lot of times students will visit for orientation and they may forget where things are located throughout the year. Or it might not be relevant to them where something's located at that particular time. Okay, but by hiding different scavenger hunt items throughout the library, it's going to refamiliarize them with the library as they visit. One of the big things is I rotate out my displays. I want people to look at my displays. I love when someone notices my display, and it's even better when students check out books from those displays. So if I've added a new display, I will use one of my scavenger hunt items to draw attention to it, because they have to find that item to complete the scavenger hunt. So this was a new display I had last fall, and it's still up. It's our Reader Recommends display, and our reader that month was Max, our therapy dog. And so all of our dog books are located on that particular display, but because it was new, students may not notice it unless they complete the scavenger hunt. Another piece, again, trying to make sure that everyone knows where things are located, and we sometimes take that for granted. I have a really bright yellow cart. It's my new books cart. It has new on the side, but anytime I tell students, hey, there's new books on the new books cart, they're not always going to notice the big yellow cart. So putting a scavenger hunt item on that yellow cart gets them to notice it, pay attention, and then they immediately start to retain that information of where the new books are located. Another piece is looking at finding different objects in the library. Some of those deal with, again, wayfinding, signage, genre labels, genre signs, things like that. But some of it is also just getting students to notice different things and explore the library. So I try and hide my items all the way from the bottom of my shelves all the way to the top. So this Shakespeare bust has followed me through my whole career at this point. But I do want students to make sure that they look up and see the signage. So I have my arts and hobbies signage for the 700s there, but they're not always going to look up and down the shelves. So I hide a little scavenger hunt item there so that they're looking all the way up and down the shelves. And one other thing I'll mention about the scavenger hunts as well is a lot of times students will find a book that they didn't know was in the library, or find a section in the library they had not explored before and check out a book as a result of doing the scavenger hunt, which is just a win-win. Other things like that where, you're pointing out where your daily schedules are posted or where your signage is posted. I try and hide scavenger hunt items on those as well, so that students automatically notice those when they're completing the scavenger hunt. My current scavenger hunts are all riddle based. And so one of the biggest pieces of that is solving the riddle. And so my scavenger hunts have, again, the letters and numbers that are listed. And I'll kind of show you an example with this particular bird as well. And then I have another example from our gnome scavenger hunt. So each of the items has a letter and a number. So as students explore, they want to find that number, and then they want to write down the letter that goes with it. So number 1 is T. They're going to write down T. You can see on the screen there, 29 is A. And they just want to explore and write down all the letters that correspond with those numbers. And so they're going to end up with a solution to the riddle. And we'll talk about coming up with the riddles here in just a little bit. So the answer to this one is, the question was, how do cardinals get their feathered friends excited about reading? And the way they do that is tweet about good books in the library. You can kind of see some other places. Again, I hide things next to bulletin boards. I have a few exterior and a couple of interior windows. I have a computer lab in my library, and I will hide the different items on windows. I have some chalkboard markers as well. And so if I can create like a little trail to those items, or even little word bubbles. So I have a little cardinal there that's saying, think spring, since it's January here in Missouri. So just things that'll draw somebody's attention or catch their eye. But that's how my riddle-based scavenger hunts work. Talking again about creating a scavenger hunt. So you kind of have the different types of scavenger hunts that you might consider creating, or some ideas from, how you're going to place your items or where you're going to locate your items. There's a couple different steps to creating one. So the first time I created one, I again was kind of taking those clues from the nature center here in my town. And then I did find an example of a public library scavenger hunt. And public libraries, especially in our area, have some really great scavenger hunts that they've put on as well. But these are really low effort, low cost types of activities to do. So the first thing you want to do is pick a theme. So I have, again, different seasonal themes, different objects. I don't really do as many holiday scavenger hunts anymore. I do ghosts for Halloween, but for December, we do gnomes. So something a little bit more general. And then you have to pick your elements. So you're going to find different little elements, different characters, different objects that you want to find, that you want to hide. And I'll show you in my templates how to find similar objects as well. You also want to develop your riddle, which for me is always the hardest part. I feel like I struggle when it comes to puns and riddles and jokes and things like that. So if you need some help, you can always Google book riddles, library riddles, reading riddles, things like that, or puns. And I'm also married to a school librarian. My husband's a school librarian and a big reader as well. And so if I need help workshopping a riddle, he's always got a great sense of humor. You have to when you work in a school library. And he is usually one of my consultants for those riddles. The next piece is choosing the different locations where you're going to be at. And you have to, again, find different spots where you want to hide those. I try and hide them in different locations throughout the library, and I try and change those up from year to year if I'm using the same scavenger hunt. And then one of the other pieces is posting different flyers or announcements around the library as well. So I also put our flyers throughout the entire school. Water fountains are usually a pretty high traffic area, so students will know about those and are able to be interested in those as well. Okay. So just a few different things that you can do when it comes to designing a scavenger hunt. So one of the biggest things I think is finding different elements that look similar, that will work together. Usually if I can find one element or character that I want to use, I try and find different versions of it as well. So it's not just always the same object over and over, or I can add an accessory to it. So I do want to show you what the information button looks like. So these are just, again, the graphics that I have in this particular slide deck. But if I go up to this information item right here, I can either go under see more like this. I can see other similar sayings that would be very, very similar to this one, or I can go to view more, and I can view more from the creator. And this had the term trendy flat is like the specific name for these particular items in this slide deck. So if I'm working with, and I'll show you here in just a few more slides, my templates, if I'm working within those templates, then I can find more and more items that are similar or from the same creators as well. Another piece of it is positioning. So whenever you're developing these lines for your riddle and you need to separate out your words, or you need to move these around. So I will usually start with the same template every time I create a new one. And I need to move those particular pieces around from time to time, to group different letters together. So one of the things that I do a lot is selecting all my elements here and using under the position option, the tidy up version of positioning, or the tidy up spacing. Okay. And so now I have those evenly spaced. So they're all on the same line. And then if I want to separate those out into two separate words, I can do that. So anytime I'm starting with a template, if I need to group different letters together to make different words, that's usually my most effective way to do that as well. Okay. And I'll show you my full scavenger hunts and my full templates here in just a few more slides as well. So there's some tips about hosting a scavenger hunt or creating a scavenger hunt. I feel like there's some little sort of unspoken things a lot of times that we do that we don't really tell everybody about, or we don't even think to mention. And so these are just some of those tips and tricks that I kind of use throughout my scavenger hunt. So a big one is giving hints to locations. So students are able to ask me for hints. I'm able to give them, those clues of saying, hey, this book is somewhere in our biography section. Maybe you want to look at biographies about different athletes. And so then they can use the catalog, again, encouraging catalog use, or they can just go over and explore and use signage to find where those particular items might be located. So I don't mind giving hints. I can't give hints for every single one. I feel like the majority of my items are in plain view where they're going to see them as long as they're paying attention. But I do like to hide a few that are a little bit more obscured. If you're working with a class, and again, I've had people use these all the way from, kindergarten up through 12th grade, and you want to have a class come in and do the scavenger hunt, divide them up into teams. A lot of times people say, how do you get somebody to not spoil it, not share answers, things like that? It's kind of just the honor system. Again, I always want to tell students, it's an activity. Everybody's going to come up with the same answer, but they're going to do it in a different way. So just make sure that we keep that amongst ourselves. Again, I will allow 2 students to work on it at the same time. I'm flexibly scheduled. So sometimes I have students that come down from the same classes or in pairs. I'm totally fine if they want to put both their names on one scavenger hunt. But if you want to do it as a class, you might think about having teams. I do try and mix it up every single year. So if I have the same scavenger hunt and I save these, so my items are cut out and laminated. I just print these on our color printer, laminate them, cut them out, hide them, tape them up throughout the library, take them back down, put them in my file cabinet. And then each time a new month comes around, I usually have a few months, I have a couple options for scavenger hunts. But if I want to create a new scavenger hunt, I totally can. But I will reuse scavenger hunts from year to year. And I just try and place the items in different places so that it's not super obvious. I never remember where all my different hiding locations were at. But from month to month, I really do try to hide the scavenger hunt items in different places. I create a list of the names of all of the finishers, so all the students that have completed the scavenger hunt. I'm a building of about 400 students, and I would say most months I have anywhere between, upwards of 30 to 50 students who complete the scavenger hunt, depending on, the length of the month and what our schedules look like and things like that. And I will draw out 10 winners, and those winners get candy. I usually buy Airheads because they're allergen free. And so each winner gets to pick out a couple of Airheads from my candy supply. So I have seen some people, if they want to buy little trinkets, different things that are seasonal and small, everybody can get a prize if that fits your budget and how you want to incentivize your scavenger hunt. Or if you just want to do it as a class, a wrap up at the end of checkout, that's totally fine too. So I kind of mentioned giving hints to locations or where things are located. So as I am hiding the scavenger hunt items and taping them up throughout the library, I just number a sheet with how many different items there are. So this is our current one. So spoiler alert, here's the locations of all my different cardinals for the month. But that helps me, one, when I take the scavenger hunt down, I can find all of the different items pretty quickly to get them stored for the next year. But the other piece of it is that I can also give students hints. So like I mentioned, number 6 is hiding in the 600s this month. So I can give students hints and say, hey, he's somewhere, this particular cardinal somewhere in nonfiction, and you can go search for it in the catalog or look at the signage and see where the 600s are. They are spread out pretty equally throughout my whole library. I always try and hide the very first one at my desk to give students a good place to start. And then they can start walking around the library and finding all those. So again, just different ways to keep everything organized and help students if they need a particular hint. Like I mentioned, some different hiding spots. First one's always at my circulation desk. I hide things on signage all the time because I want everybody to look at my signs that I spent so much time on. I hide a lot in displays. I do put them on different pieces of equipment that they might need to know where it's located. Like if a teacher sends them down with copies, they need to know where the copier is at. And things like the end caps of shelves. And I do have a video. I've created a couple of different walkthroughs on my TikTok account. This is probably one of my most popular scavenger hunts. It's a ghost scavenger hunt for October. And you can see some of the different hiding locations. So I just walked around and filmed where they're located. So again, things like seasonal displays that might get overlooked. Areas, again, like different decorations, trying to incorporate the different scavenger hunt items into those. But they're all over my library. And as you walk around, you're going to naturally find most of those. But you might have to backtrack. And so students have, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, usually if they come down with the pass, and they're going to locate those particular items. So this gives you an idea. There's one that's hidden pretty well on a poster as well. I hid them on my book lists so that they pay attention to those. And so that's just kind of a walkthrough. I have a couple of different walkthroughs on my TikTok if you want to see some other hiding locations, but this one was a really, really successful one as well. Okay. I do have a lot of different templates for you to explore if you want to take a look at these. I will show you a couple. I do want to show you the turkey one for sure. And then I think I also want to show you this bee one. But like I mentioned, if you want to use any of these, I try to put them sort of in order by the seasons that I use them. So anywhere from sort of a general one, like I use, this is fall, but this other Library Cats one is sort of like September, back to school. They kind of go in order of the seasons. I do want to show you the Turkey Scavenger Hunt, because this is one where I have used specific titles before. So let me scroll down just a little bit. So this is one where I am matching up titles or locations versus specific books, but it is requiring them to use the catalog or to look up authors. So, for instance, this Turkey Loves books by Jason Reynolds. They would then try and find, again, Jason Reynolds in my library is mostly in realistic fiction. So they go over and there would be a turkey hidden either on a Jason Reynolds book or on the shelf next to the Jason Reynolds books. And then I do a few different scavenger hunts where the items have name tags. And so you have a really fun opportunity to come up with all kinds of different names for your little individual turkeys or your little individual ghosts or however you would want to create that scavenger hunt. And so then this would correspond with this particular answer. So the turkey's name would be Turkey Lurkey in this case. So that is one where I do hide those items with specific books. And it is a little bit more than just, again, the wayfinding looking around the library. I do want to show you Summer Bees. This is our last one that we usually do in May before school is out for the year. And I want to show you in this template, again, you can copy and paste this. You can change the riddle. You can change the question. You can change how many lines you have, like I mentioned, by using Tidy Up. But one of the pieces that I do want to show you is kind of how I locate the letters. So again, just trying to find a good place and good fonts. I usually use a few different fonts on these, but this is one, Husser Bold, that is usually pretty bold as well. So it's easy to pick out on these particular items. But like you can see, I try and add different accessories to my different scavenger hunt items, kind of keeping with the same color scheme, just to make them all individual. So it's not just the same item all over the library. I will give, they're holding on to a book. I will give the book a particular title. And sometimes I will also place that next to that individual title as well. I always include in my template the solution to the riddle on the last page. So read books. Let's see, the question was, what advice do the bees have for students going on summer break? Read books, be kind, and stay cool. So a little bit of a pun there as well. And again, I'll just print this out, cut these out individually, laminate them, and then tape them up around the library. So really no cost, just color printing for the most part. Okay. So you can always go back through and look at any of these individual templates. You can customize them however you might need to. I also have, I'll go ahead and show you this gnome one. This is another one where I've included specific books that the gnomes are holding. And so let me go down to, so these have individual books, and that's where I would hide those individual gnomes. Maybe not on the book in case it checks out, but at the location where those books would be. So you can always change those out. If you don't want to use those books, you can just drop in a book cover element from Canva. So you do have some options if you want to be very specific with where you want to hide those. Okay. Hang on one second. Let me go back here. And I do want to share my link tree. So I have all of my templates linked right here on my link tree, and I will open that up so you can see it as well. And then these are my social media accounts. Like I mentioned on TikTok, I like to do walkthroughs of our different scavenger hunts. So I will kind of give some different walkthroughs of various ones that we've done. And I like to post different library videos on my TikTok as well. And then my username on X and Instagram is there. And the last thing I want to show you is my link tree. I have quite a bit of different items on here, whether it's reading trackers or promotional items for your library. But here are all my different scavenger hunt templates, and they are again also linked on that last slide. Thank you so much for attending. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks.